So what I wanted to do today is give you a demonstration of our intelligent document processing tool, Abbyy FlexiCapture, and how we use it to check to see whether VAT numbers are valid or not. This is off the back of a LinkedIn post that I made a few days ago. Essentially, there is a formula that you can apply to VAT numbers that mathematically checks to see whether a string of digits that you've captured from the document, from the invoice in this case, is a valid VAT number or not. This was born out of a customer requirement that we came across a few years ago now. The customer had some specific requirements around what they wanted to do with VAT numbers. So the first thing is they wanted to check the invoice to see if there was one or more valid VAT numbers on the document. So are any of the strings of text, numbers and letters that you find on the document potential VAT numbers? If they are potential VAT numbers, do they validate against the formula that I spoke about a minute ago? So are they verified as being VAT numbers? And then they also wanted to apply some custom logic around what happens next with those VAT numbers that are found that are valid. So one thing is that they wanted to cross-reference any valid VAT numbers on the invoice against the supplier master data record. So pulling the supplier name, address, VAT number, bank account details from the ERP system and checking that record against what's found on the document. And then they also wanted to apply some logic around if we've found VAT on the document, but we've not found a VAT number, then do we need to take some action because this supplier has to be VAT registered to put VAT on the document, those sorts of things. And so we can achieve some of that out of the box with Abbyy FlexiCapture, but there's a lot of that we need to create customizations for. So this demonstration shows the VAT number validation and the business rules in place, but it also shows how we can use a custom flexi layout to find potential VAT numbers from the document. So we're using a template in the background to apply logic to find potential VAT numbers. It also shows how we can apply custom code within rules, business rules, and custom rules within the actual document definition, which we'll have a look at in a second, to apply custom logic as well. So a few things that this demonstration will show us in reference to business requirements and in reference to our intelligent document processing tool, FlexiCapture. So I'm going to load up my demonstration system now and we'll have a look at this in action. Okay, so as you can see, I've opened up the document definition within Abbyy FlexiCapture. I will go through at some point in a separate video how these kind of document definitions and whatnot work. But this is basically a specific generic project that I've got that I use for demonstrations. And this document definition allows me to change settings for that generic project, as it were. So one of the things that we talked about in the intro was applying a flexi layout, a custom flexi layout, which is a template that is set up and configured to find a custom or multiple custom bits of information from the invoice itself. So in this case, we've programmed it to look for potential VAT numbers. So look across all the text on the document and return to me in a repeating group any strings of numbers that you find that might be a VAT number. So I'm not going to go into how we configure a flexi layout now, definitely needs a separate video, but that's what we've done is the first thing, customize flexi layout, applied that to find any potential VAT numbers. Then what we've done is created a custom repeating field in the document definition down here, and this will then take those potential VAT numbers from the flexi layout and allow us to use those characters to apply some further logic. So every VAT number field here is one of those instances that the VAT flexi layout has found. The next thing that we can do is, now we have this custom field and we have some text in it from the Flexi layout, is that we can apply a rule on this field. And we've got a couple of different rules here. So the one that we're going to look at is this check VAT number is valid rule. You'll see this is a script rule. So this is me adding some custom code against that field to perform some function. So in this case, it's to perform that mathematical check on that string of numbers to say, is this potentially a valid VAT number or not? So as you can see here on this screen, we've got a script editor that allows us to enter custom C# code in this case to perform some function against that field or multiple fields. And so the top bit of this custom code here is checking to see whether the VAT number has GB or yeah, in this case GB at the beginning or not. We don't need those two characters at the beginning to do our mathematical check, so we remove them. It's then also checking to see whether the VAT number is the correct length. And then finally, it's applying some of that mathematical formula check, or all of that mathematical formula check in code. What I'll do is I'll link to my LinkedIn post that I created a few days ago on this, because that LinkedIn post shows what that mathematical formula is outside of code. So it tells you the steps to follow if you wanted to check a VAT number just using your calculator, as it were. But yeah, we've got a couple of implementations of this, just because there is a couple of different formulas to apply now, because there's a couple of different potential types of VAT number. And so that's where we've applied that logic. After we've found some potential VAT numbers, do those potential VAT numbers match that mathematical formula that says, yes, this is a valid VAT number? Once we perform that logic, we concatenate all the VAT numbers into one field. These are all the valid VAT numbers we found. And again, we perform some actions on those. And that's where these custom VAT rules come into place. So when I look into this rule, this is where I'm performing that business logic that the customer asked for. If I found a VAT number on the invoice, I've checked it against that mathematical formula and it's come back as valid, then I want to check and see whether that VAT number matches the VAT number that I hold for this supplier in my master data record in my ERP system that I've synced with FlexiCapture to do these type of checks. So we sync supplier name, supplier address information, VAT numbers, bank account details, because we use that data that already exists in the ERP system to do multiple things, and this just happens to be one of those things, checking that VAT number on the invoice against that VAT number on the in the master data record. For this particular customer, we also performed some additional business logic, so things like, depending on the VAT value we've seen on the document and the result of the VAT number lookup, we might present some action to the user. They were quite kind of strict in their due diligence. So what they were trying to achieve is checking to see whether their master data is correct, checking to see whether there's a match between master data and what's on the invoice, and then also checking to make sure, based on VAT values, that information also looked correct and there was no ambiguity as to whether this supplier was VAT registered or not, or whether they should have a VAT number against it, those sorts of things. And so you can see, we'll go off and test this now, but you can see that this intelligent document processing tool, FlexiCapture, Abbyy FlexiCapture, allows us, through that combination of a custom Flexi layout, some custom code on the fields there, to implement those business rules that the customer asked us to implement. And that's becoming an increasingly important part of our our job. There are a number of kind of off-the-shelf AP tools nowadays, and they are increasingly kind of fixed in what they can do. They can't necessarily be as flexible in the way that we work with Abbyy FlexiCapture. And sometimes that's a great advantage to us, because we can obviously match the customer requirement and say, even if some functionality doesn't exist now, it might well be straightforward enough to add that functionality to that particular custom project. So that's what we do really well. We don't develop software from scratch. We don't sell kind of generic fixed solutions really. We sit somewhere in the middle. If you've got a custom requirement, we'll be able to match, potentially be able to match, and probably be able to match that custom requirement using techniques that the sorts of techniques that you've just seen. So whilst I've been chatting, I just pressed on test so you can see the result here. So those of you that will have watched other videos of mine will be aware of the fact that all the logic's been applied to that invoice on the right hand side now, and the results are on the left hand side here. Now this section of the form is to do with that master data record. So we've matched the supplier back to information on the document and said this is our supplier in our ERP system. You can see when I click into that field where it's found some of that information on the page, the supplier name, for instance. You can also see where it's found that VAT number on the page as well. So, FlexiCapture out of the box is going to find a VAT number, is going to let us check that VAT number against the master data record, but it's only found that VAT number because it exists in the master data record. So, if it didn't exist in that master data record, it wouldn't necessarily have found it. So in terms of our kind of custom logic, you can see down here, we've got the output from that flexible layout. So the configuration we've done in that flexi layout to say check on the document and find any strings that could be a VAT number without you having to know what the VAT number might be in advance. So obviously it's found very clearly the VAT reg number that's labeled VAT reg number, so you can see when I click in the field on the left hand side where on the document it's found that. If I click into this blank field, you can see where on the document that flexi layout found a string of characters that could be a VAT number in theory. So flexi layout's done its job. This could be a VAT number. It's not looking at any labels or anything on the page to do that. It's just saying, look at all the text and find me possible VAT numbers. Then what's really important, obviously, is to apply that rule to that custom mathematical rule formula to that potential VAT number to say, could it be a VAT number? Is it potentially valid? So this string of digits here hasn't been verified against that mathematical formula, so we've removed that from the list of possible VAT numbers, verified VAT numbers. So down here in our possible VAT numbers, it only contains this VAT number because that's the only one that's been found on the document that worked against that mathematical formula. So that's how that works. If I remove the logic just quickly from there and then just put it back just once like this, you can kind of see that in play. So that's the VAT number that I'm telling it to check. Obviously, I've done that manually rather than through the flexi layout. It's valid, so it shows in the possible VAT numbers. If I remove the 0 and add a 1, it's no longer valid. It no longer matches that mathematical formula. The rule kicks in, it deletes it from the VAT number field here, and you can see that it also removes it from the possible VAT number fields here. This also shows the implementation of some of those further business rules, those custom business rules this customer wanted. So in this case, we've got VAT quoted on the document, we've got no VAT number found on the document because I've manually removed them, and so the rules kicked in to say, tell the user that, and they might need to then take some action. So again, being quite strict on enforcing their business rules here to do their due diligence. That was one of the rules that they specifically wanted. Not everybody would want to do that. Some people may even disagree with whether that's logical and correct, but in this case, that's what they wanted to do. So you can also see down here when I add the possible VAT number back in and it's all verified, you can see that the matching VAT number found box is ticked as well. That's telling me that this possible VAT number that's been verified against the mathematical formula is a match to the master data record. So, all those different business rules are kicked in now, haven't got any errors down here, haven't got any warnings. this test would be good for it to move on to the next stage. So I hope that's been useful. So in the demonstration there, just as a quick recap, we saw a number of things come into play. So um, this was a demo based on a LinkedIn post, as I said. That LinkedIn post was all about applying a mathematical formula to a string of characters to assess whether that string of characters could be a VAT number or not. So that's what we've done. We've used some custom logic within the document definition to apply that mathematical formula. We also saw FlexiLayouts in play. So a FlexiLayout is something that we can configure to find some information on a document. In this case, any string of characters that could be, in theory, a VAT number. And we saw that the feedback would be in the document definition and how that would present itself to the user. So I think kind of key takeaways is Abbyy FlexiCapture as a intelligent document processing tool really allows us to be able to say, is there some functionality out of the box that the customer could use, or can we quite quickly create some custom logic within the tool to apply some code or some logic to some information we've found, or to find some additional information so we can apply that logic and then get the result that the customer wanted. And that's really important. In my pre-sales role as head of technical consulting at Spectrum, one of the things that I do is talk to customers about their requirements. I listen to them in talk in depth about what they find painful in their existing processes around intelligent document processing or manual document processing, and then I, address those pain points using the automation tool set that we have, of which Abbyy FlexiCapture is a part of that tool set. And so it's really useful for me to be able to think logically about those pain points and those business requirements and say, yes, we can meet that requirement, maybe with some custom logic if we need to, but maybe out the box if we need to as well. So that's the end of the demonstration today. I hope people found that useful. Please do feedback to me in the comments or get in contact over LinkedIn as well. I spend some time on LinkedIn connecting with other sales professionals, other pre-sales professionals, but also potential customers and clients. The demonstration you saw today wasn't in a production environment; it was absolutely in a demo environment. There are a few things that we probably would have tidied up if this was going into production, or it has gone into production, but if this was the production system, as it were. But yeah, I hope that's helped, and give me a shout out or give me a follow on LinkedIn. Many thanks. Bye.